Good morning, children. This is second part of chapter 2 from our book Indian Economic Development, and the name of the chapter is Indian Economy 1950 to 1990. And we have done so far our introduction part. We understood types of economic systems, capitalist or market economy, socialist or centrally planned economy, mixed economy. We have studied IPR 1948 and the goals of 5-year plans in detail. We have understood what is a plan. We have done growth as the goal of 5-year plan, modernization, self-reliance, and equity as one of the goals of 5-year plans in India. And now we'll continue our video class from this section, that is agriculture during planning period and the economic policies 1950 to 1990 in the agricultural sector. So you can clearly see in the slide that type of land reforms introduced during planning period. This you need to understand that planning period is 1950 to 1990 at the time of independence, or we can say after the independence. Our planners, they designed the policies immediately after the independence, and due to that British colonial rule, we can say that agriculture was stagnant. We understood that in our last chapter, that colonial rule, the British rule in India, the agriculture sector suffered a lot. So stagnant means there was no growth during that British rule. So immediate after the independence, or we can say at the time of independence, our planners, our designers, they called for the land reforms, and these are two of them. Firstly, abolishing, or we can say removing intermediaries. Abolishing intermediaries, that is jamidars, or in some places they are called jagirdars. They were removed, and making actual farmers the owners of the land. Secondly, land ceiling, which means fixing the maximum size of land which could be owned by an individual. So this you need to understand that during that era, that of planning period, that during 1950 to 1990, two reforms took place. First one is abolishing intermediaries, and second one is land ceiling. And abolishing intermediary means removing intermediaries like jamidars and making and they made actual farmers the owners of the land, the tillers the owners of the land, the tenants the owners of the land. These kind of keywords when we read NCERT, we should be aware of these keywords. And secondly, land ceiling means fixing the maximum size of land which could be owned by an individual, so that these rich farmers, or we can say in other words, the jamidars should not possess the land which was permitted, we can say, during that period of time. So maximum size was fixed and that could be owned by an individual. So why there was need for land reforms during the planning period? Firstly, at the time of independence, jamidars collected only rent from the actual farmers without contributing in improvement of farms. There was no improvement, there was no productivity, so the output was not increasing at that time. So that was the main reason, was jamidars. So in the earlier slide we understood that that jamidari system was removed from agriculture sector in India. And our planners, the second reason they called for land reforms was that low productivity, means the output was low in agriculture sector. So due to that, our planners was forced to import food grains from USA. Even the food grains we had to import. This you need to understand that colonial government, that colonial rule was, we can say, the agriculture sector suffered a lot during that period. The colonial rule was the main reason for agriculture stagnation. So that was again one of the reason Then thirdly, equity in agriculture means equality for called for land reforms, which refers to change in the ownership of land only. This you need to understand. Change in the ownership of land only. Now the owners at that time, we can say at the time of independence, our planners are the government. They made the actual farmers, the tenants, the tillers, the owners of the land. Because these jamidars, they were the owners, but they never farmed. They were never involved in farm activities. So in farming, or we can say, so that was again one of the reasons. These farmers, the actual tillers, must be the owners of the land, so that will give them incentive. That was one of the thoughts during that time by our planners, that the incentive means the profits will directly be with the farmers. So now, in the second last point, you can see that benefit of abolishing intermediaries, jamidars. What was the benefit? And what was the, we can say, the vision? The ownership of land would give incentive, or we can say profits, to the tillers for improvement in agri. And then these tillers, the actual farmers, they'll involve themselves. They'll invest to improve the output. That is increasing output. Those jamidars, they were never interested. They were interested only in rents. They were interested in taxes, to pay taxes to these Britishers. So they never made any serious attempt to improve the output in agriculture sector. So our planners at the time of independence, they removed those jamidars and made the actual tillers, the farmers, the owners of the. And the idea behind that was that will give incentive, that would give incentive, or we can say the profits, to the tillers, because now they were the owners at that time, and they would improve in output. They would try to improve in agriculture, and so that output could be increased. And the benefit of land ceiling, it reduced the concentration of land in few hands. Okay, few big landlords, few big jamidars. Now that was not the case, we can say, at that time. At the time of independence, the concentration of land, they distributed the land to the actual tenants, so that to reduce the concentration of land in few hands. So again, give it a look. Need, firstly, land reforms during that planning period, means 1950 to 1990, abolishing or removing intermediaries like jamidars, and land ceiling, which means fixing the maximum size of land for the equity. And why there was a need? Jamidars never made any serious attempt to improve farm. The productivity was low. Even at that time, India had to import food grains from USA. So there may be a chance of foreign interference, foreign dependence. So that was not good. So that called for land reforms, which means change in the ownership of land holding. And now the owners are the actual farmers, not the big landlords, the jamidars. And the benefit was that the profits would be given to actual tillers. The incentives given to the actual tillers, the actual farmers. Tiller means the farmers, those who were actually working in the field at that time, not the jamidars. They were never interested. So those farmers who were involved in farms, they would surely improve the conditions, and so that in turn the output would increase. And the benefit of land ceiling, the concentration of land in few hands. And now the demerits, in some areas jamidars continued to own large areas of land. They used the loopholes in the legislation of abolishing intermediaries. Jamidars removed actual farmers and claimed to be self-cultivators. So as per the legislation, self-cultivator must be the owner. So jamidar, they proved in front of the legislation, in front of the law, that that we are the self-cultivators. Landless laborers, tenant farmers did not get benefit from land reforms even when they got ownership of land because of lack of funds to invest in farms. So now the demerits of land reform, the other reform, land ceiling. Big landlords challenged land ceiling in court and delayed its implementation. And they used this delay to register lands in the name of close relatives. So these are some of the demerits of land reforms: abolishing intermediaries and land ceiling. And now the other, we can say, that policy of green revolution during that planning period of 1950 to 1990, which means large increase in production of food grains with the use of HYV, high yielding variety seeds, fertilizers and pesticides, and regular supply of water. So the need, why there was need of green revolution at the time of independence, 75% of country's population was dependent on agriculture. Productivity in agriculture sector was very low, and because of use of old technology and lack of infrastructure like electricity, water, transport, banks, etc. So now you can understand the meaning, which simply means large increase in production of food grains of like wheat, rice, and using HYV seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and regular supply of water. Why there was need? Because most of our population at that time, at the time of independence, was dependent on agriculture, and the productivity was very low. Even though such a large population was involved, but productivity output was low. And benefits, and because of green revolution, agriculture output increased. India achieved self-sufficiency in food grains. Now at that time, after the green revolution, we were not importing food grains from, now after the green revolution, from USA. And marketed surplus, which means the part of agriculture produce, the food grains which is sold in the market by the farmers, is called marketed surplus. Prices of food grains declined because of the supply and benefited low income group, mostly poor. And lastly, government built a stock of food grains to use in times of food shortage. You can understand that in today's pandemic coronavirus situation, government is distributing food grains because of these stocks only. And so during that green revolution also they build the stocks, and whenever there is a need, whenever there is a shortage, we can say at that time there was a shortage, we can say, and whenever there was a shortage, they could distribute food grains. So again, look at the benefits of green revolution. Agriculture output increased. India achieved self-sufficiency in food grains. Now there was no, at that time there was no need to import food grains from USA because of green revolution. Marketed surplus means that agriculture produce, now food grains which a farmer can sell in the market is marketed surplus after, we can say, the fulfilling the family needs. And second last point is prices. Because of the supply declined and it benefited the low income group, government built a stock of food grains to use in times of food shortage. And green revolution, some risks were there. Green revolution would increase the disparities between small and big farmers because that technology was costly. HYV seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, irrigation facilities, that at that time that was costly. So a poor farmer, a small farmer cannot afford that. So in that case, big farmers can easily afford, and their produce will increase, their output will increase. This will increase the disparity, means the gap between the small and the big farmers. And there may be a pest attack because HYV crops can be easily attacked by the pests. But to remove these risks at that time, at the time of independence, government took some measures to reduce these risks. And what some steps? First, government provided loans at low interest rate, so that farmers at the time of independence could buy HYV seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and government research institutes reduce the risk of pest attack. With their studies, with their researches, they help the farmers so that the risk of pest attack can be reduced. So there was a debate over subsidies. Usefulness of subsidies can be that subsidies were needed to encourage small farmers to test the new technology. This now you can understand that at that time the technology was costly. seeds were costly, fertilizers were costly. So subsidies helped the farmers to adopt this new technology. Most farmers are poor; they will not be able to afford the required inputs without subsidies. So at that time, we can say the most farmers were poor. They That was the view of our some economists, that most farmers at that time are poor, so their subsidy is required. That was the view of some of the economists, and they also considered that removing subsidies will increase the inequality between rich and poor farmers. So these are some of the usefulness points. We can be useful. Why subsidies are useful? Usefulness of subsidies. Firstly, help to encourage the small farmers to test the new technology. Secondly, so if the subsidy would be removed, then the small farmers will not be able to afford the required inputs. And thirdly, and it will increase the inequality between rich and poor farmers. And there were some drawbacks. Fertilizer subsidy benefited fertilizer industry than the small farmers at that time. It benefited more prosperous states like Punjab than the other states. So these were some of the drawbacks of subsidies. So now we can we can conclude that in India between 1950 to 1990, the part of GDP contributed by agriculture declines, but not the population depending on it. Industrial sector and service sector did not absorb the people working in the agriculture sector. And many economists call this an important failure of our policy during 1950 to 1990. This you can understand like this. A large part of our population was dependent on agriculture, but agriculture was not contributing it. Its contribution was declining year by year. You can understand like this. If such a large population was engaged, why not the output was increasing at that time? So this was one of the questions. It was contradictory. Population was there in that sector, but output was not there. So that we can understand like disguised unemployed, that most of the farmers family members, though they are not at all required, but they are engaged in the farms um, more than the requirement. This you can understand like this. So in one way we can say that they are employed in their farms, but the other way disguised, we can say disguised, they are not employed, they are sitting idle, because more people are there than the requirement in the farms. And the reason economists found that the other two sectors, industrial sector at the time of independence, during that era of 50 to 90, and the service sector, these two sectors did not absorb the people working in the agriculture sector. The surplus labor was there, surplus people were there in the agriculture sector, but the reason was the other two sectors did not absorb the people, and this was one of the failure of our policies during 50 to 90. So now the industry, we've done so far the agriculture sector. Now we'll try to understand the industry during the planning period and the economic policies in this particular sector, industrial sector, during 1950 to 1990. So this you can understand like this. Why state had to play an extensive role in promoting the industrial sector? From the very beginning of this chapter, we now understand that India started on the socialist lines. Government will be the pioneer. Government would lead from front, and private sector would just help them. So why was such we can say planning was there? Why was such attitude of government was there? Why state had to play an extensive role? Their role was very important during that time, and the private sector's role was very minimal. Why such we can say policy was there? Because this we can understand with the help of two reasons. Because firstly, at the time of independence, Indian industrialists not have the funds to invest. They were not having the funds to start a factory. So public sector firm or government was there to start the industries. Secondly, the market was not big enough to encourage industrialists to invest in new projects, we can say new factories, even if they had the funds. So these are the 2 points. Firstly, they had no fund, private sector. Secondly, if they had fund, the market was not encouraging. Market means the consumers demand was not there of that particular commodity we can say. uh, if an industrialists want to enter, the demand was not there. So these were the two reasons why government had to play an extensive role in promoting the industrial sector. And they introduced IPR 1956, that is Industrial Policy Resolution. Earlier we learned about the IPR 1948. Again, give it a look. IPR 1948, that IPR, that Industrial Policy Resolution, directed that India would be a socialist society, means government will be there. The decision making will with the government only, with a strong public sector, strong government sector units, public sector units, but with the private property and democracy. The government would plan for the economy, with private sector being encouraged to be the part of the plan. Now you can see clearly that during that era, or you can say at the time of independence, government sector was very strong. And now the IPR 1956 they designed, and that stated that this resolution classified industries into three categories. First, consisted or comprised of industries which would be exclusively owned by the state, means exclusively owned by the government, means public sector units. Secondly, consisted of industries, second category, in which the private sector could supplement the effort of this, you can, effort of the state, or we can say the government sector. And third category consisted of private sector industries. The private sector was kept under the state control through a system of licensing. Now this is very important. IPR 1956, there were two industry policy resolution. One was in 1948, they designed in 1948. Second one they designed in 1956. First one was focused more on the socialist pattern government. Second one, they categorized industries. First category, exclusively owned by the state, or we can say government. Second, consisted of industries in which the private sector could supplement the effort of the state government, or we can state sector or government sector. Again, the leaders are the state only, just they are helping private sector. They were helping with this category. And the third one, the remaining few, consisted of private sector industries, where the private sector was kept under the state control through a system of licensing. This again government, the licensing system was there. So now you need to understand what was the system of licensing at that time. New industry, that industrialists need license for the establishment of new industry, or existing industry wants to diversify for producing new variety of goods. For that also, that existing industry needs to get license at that time, had to obtain a license. This policy was used for promoting industry in economically backward regions. It was easier to obtain a license if the industrial unit was established in economically backward regions. Such industries were given tax benefits and electricity at a lower tariff, or we can say lower rates, lower prices. The purpose of this policy was to promote regional equality. Again, you can give it a look to the slide and try to understand. And these all slides you have to write in your notebook of Indian economic development. So you should remember this. And again, try to understand what was system of licensing at that time. This policy was used for promoting industry in economically backward regions. If industrialists want to start at that time in a industry in a economically backward region, what were the benefits? Tax benefits, electricity at a lower rates. And what was the purpose? Why government decided, why they framed this policy? To promote regional equality, means all the regions must be promoted. The growth must not be concentrated to few regions, few areas, few cities, few states. Throughout India there must be, even the rural India, there must be development. And industries, the special at that time, they designed for the small scale industry. They designed the policy. In 1955, the Village and Small Scale Industries Committee, also called at that time Karvi Committee, noted the possibility of using small scale industries for promoting rural development. So they identified the usefulness at that time of small scale industry. And a small scale industry can be defined with reference to the maximum investment. At that time during 1950 it was 5 lakhs allowed on the assets of the units to start the unit, industrial unit. As and the what was the reason they focused on small scale industry? Third point clears that small scale industries are more labor intensive, means more labor are used, more laborers are given employment by the small scale industry than the large scale, because large scale industry they use machinery heavily, and small scale industry they depend heavily on labor, so they use more labor than large scale industries and therefore generate more employment. So at that time, to generate employment, our planners, our government, they focused on small scale industry and they helped to develop these small scale industry. At that time these industries cannot compete with the big industrial units, so to protect these small scale industries, the production of a number of products was reserved for the small scale industry. This is very important point. To protect small scale industries from large firms during 1950 to 1990, some of the products, some of the goods were reserved. Reserved means big industrial units at that time cannot produce those categories of goods. Only small scale industries could produce those goods, reserve goods. They were also given lower excise duty and bank loans at lower interest rates. To strengthen these small scale industry, benefits were there at that time: lower taxes, bank loans at lower interest rates. So again, as for small scale industry, there was special policy. So now this is trade policy. During the planning program, again we can review industrial policy. So again you can understand that state government was again playing at that time an extensive or important role. Reason you can understand, industrialists, they were not having funds, private sector, they were not having funds. Again, if they were having funds, the market was not there, the demand was not there. So a new IPI was there, 1956. That IPI divided the industries into 3 categories. This you need to understand that. Then a system of licensing was again, a new policy of licensing was there to promote regional equality. Then for the small scale industry, they designed a special policy during 1950 to 1990 to protect. Why small scale industry? Because they generate more employment, they are labor intensive, more use of labor was there than and they protected these small scale industry from big industrial units by reserving some of the products which these big industrial units at that time cannot produce. Now the trade policy. Trade means foreign trade here. Import substitution, one of the policy was, economic policy during 1950 to 1990 was import substitution, which means inward looking trade strategy, which means import substitution aimed at substituting imports with domestic production. In this policy, government protected the domestic industries from foreign competition, and protection from imports took 2 forms. First, tariffs. Tariffs means taxes on imported goods. Secondly, quotas means quantity of goods which can be imported. And the effects of tariffs and quota is that they restricted imports during that era. Again, you need to understand that import substitution was one of the policy during 1950 to 1990, which means imports, government tried to restrict the imports through 2 forms. Tariffs means high taxes on imported goods, quotas, quantity of goods which importer can import at that time. So they fixed that quantity. Importer cannot exceed that quantity while importing goods. So what was the aim? To protect the domestic industries from foreign competition. And now we can review, we can understand what was the effect of policies on industrial development. The part of GDP contributed by the industrial sector increased. This again one of the positive point. The policies means worked positively from 11.8% in 1950 to 24.6% from 1990-91. That is 50-51, 19 to 91. For a year it is calculated. GDP is calculated for a year. The duration is 50 to 51. 90 that increased. Secondly, 6% annual growth rate of the industrial sector. Again, annual growth rate means 6% was more added in comparison to the last year. That means we can say again the positive point. Thirdly, industrial sector became diversified due to the public sector. Diversified means different commodities were produced. And next, protection from foreign competition enabled the development of Indian industries in the areas of electronics and automobile sector. This again one of the positive point. Our domestic industry developed. And second last point, state enterprises continued to produce certain, this is negative one, to produce certain goods and services, although this was no longer required. Like telecommunication means these companies like Airtel, these are private sector firms. Earlier there was just BSNL, MTNL was there. So at that time that was reserved for the public sector units. So they continued to produce certain goods and services, although this was no longer required. Like they were involved in bread also, bread production, hotels, services were there. So some economists pointed out that there was no need for the state, for the government to involve in such kind of commodities or services. Many PSUs incurred huge losses but continued to function. This was again one of the negative point of the public sector unit. PSUs means public sector units. And the other point is the need to obtain a license to start an industry was misused by, again, negative point. Some industries, big industries, they misused so that the new industrialists cannot enter at that time. So they used this, they lobbied with the government, they worked with the ministries so that the new venture cannot be started to maintain the monopoly. The quality of domestic goods was not improving. Why? Because of lack of foreign competition, because competition was not there. So there was no incentive for the local producers, domestic producers to improve, and we failed to develop a strong export sector. We were inward looking, the export import was not there. This was, and this with other problems led the government to introduce a new economic policy in 1991, which is the basis for our next chapter. New economic policy we'll study in detail. That is liberalization, privatization, globalization. Collectively they are called as new economic policies, which India introduced in 1991. These were the other reforms. This 50 to 90 were the reforms after the British era, and 50 to 90 Indian government, they led the economy, but there were some problems, and we started our economists, our government, our planners, they introduced a new economic policy. They initiated a new economic policy in 1991. This we'll study in our next chapter. And now we have completed our chapter 2, and now you have to complete this exercise in your notebook. Define a plan. In one of the slides we studied this, so you have to write from that particular slide what is marketable surplus. Thirdly, explain the need and type of land reforms implemented in the agriculture sector. This is planning period. Fourth, what is Green Revolution, why was it implemented, and how did it benefit the farmers. Fifth, explain the goals of 5-year plan. Sixth, why was it necessary for India to follow self-reliance as the planning objective. This is again, the answer is there, is one of the, all the answers are there in the slide. You have to write it separately in the exercise when you will write. Why was public sector be given a leading role in industrial development during the planning period? This is again, the answer is there in the slide. 2 reasons are there. What is sectoral composition of an economy? Very simple. Again, in one of the slide, you need to find that in the slide and write it down. Discuss the usefulness and drawbacks of subsidies. Again, you know the answer. Question number 10, explain how import substitution can protect domestic industries. Again, there are 2 forms to protect the domestic industry, you know that. And the last question is why and how was private sector regulated under the IPR 1956. So this you have to do in your notebook. Revise this particular chapter and write these slides in your notebook of Indian economic development. If there isn't any doubt, you are having my email ID, you can mail to me. Thank you. Be at your home and be safe and study regularly. Thank you and God bless you.